Hey, what's up guys? So today we are going to continue on the series that we've started about making the point and click game. So the last episode, what we've done is essentially created the NavMesh system and allowed the characters to move wherever we clicked. So this is a small demo of what we did last time. So today what we're going to do is to add the interaction layer, which basically means if I click on this rock, then it should be able to gather this rock. If I click on this bush, it should be able to replenish my hunger bar, and if you click on this tree, then it should chop it down. Alright, so that's what we're going to do today. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna very quickly make a small UI just to show the different things that we are going to do. So let me just start by creating a new image, set my canvas to 2D, and then I can just reposition this, let's say here on the top right. So this could technically be my stone gathered, like so. Obviously I'm not making this very pretty, but if you are going to build this for a game, then obviously you need to polish the visuals. So this is just for educational purposes only, so do keep that in mind. Then that said, I can have a dark blue here. Let me see if I've got any sprites. I can use this one. Okay, great. And now that this has been used, I can just duplicate that and I can have it here. So I make this a square like so, and then maybe I can have it go inside like so. So there is a small inset. It's a little bit not that noticeable. Let's have it here. So this way now you should be able to see it. Maybe let me dramatize it a little bit more, like this. Great, now it's definitely very apparent. And then I can just change this color to something lighter, a light blue, like this should work. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to add this is the stones, right? So I'm just going to add the icon for the stone inside of this one. So let's rename this. So this one will be the background for the stone. This will be the stone icon holder, and this is going to be the stone icon, like this. And now let me get the icons ready and I'll be right back. Yes, so here am I. I've made two basic icons. I basically just screenshotted the preview here, so just for the sake of this video. So now we can actually use this. I'm just going to drag and drop the stone one here and put this as this one, preserve the aspect. And now we have a nice preview of the stone. And then again we need to anchor it properly. Right, so now I can just duplicate this, but this one is for the wood. Alright, this one should be named wood icon holder, and then this should be wood icon. And for this one I can drag and drop this one instead, and let's just have this right here, right, like so. And let me just change the color a little bit. So for wood I can have it a nice brown. Same thing for this one. This looks good. Maybe let me change this one a little bit. Like so. Great. I think this looks good for our use case. And let me also make the hunger bar. So for this one what we are going to use is a slider. So UI canvas and then slider. We can have this one on top over here, for instance. But first let me just disable the actual handle area, because this is not something that we're going to use. Also make sure that interactable is set to false and max value is set to 100, and then I just put this as 60 or any value really, just so I can see the difference. Now as for the background, we can just have it fill the entire part. I'm going to have this as a dark red. Same thing for the fill area, we want it to go all the way like so, and then we can add a small inset to this like so, and then have this as a lighter shade of red. Now this looks good, and let's have it at 0 and then at 100. So if at 100 it needs to be a little bit bigger, so this needs to go up to here. Great. Now let's try it out. Amazing. So now we've got the UI fully functional. Well, at the very least fully made. We still have to make it functional. Let's anchor this properly, so now it resizes based on our screen size. So now that this has been done, we can actually start ahead and actually code everything. So for this tutorial, I'm going to actually show you how to write the code. So instead of showing the code snippet and explaining to it, I'm just going to write it and explain along the way. So the first thing we want to do is to actually create the iInteractable script. So iInteractable. Alright, so this will be an interface that we can extend. We can discard this one, we don't need it today. So now we can delete these, we can delete that as well, and then we need to replace this with interface. So now what we can do is have a public void interact, and here you go. That's all we need. We can go back to Unity. Now let's start with the stones. Oh, actually I forgot something. Before we continue, I actually forgot to put the text in the actual stone and wood. So that's very simple. We just need to create a new text object in here, and let me just resize it real quick here, and then this goes here like so. So I'm just going to add the text and then I'll be right back. So here we are. I've already done the text. Now we can just display whatever we need here, and then it's just going to adapt. So let's just start with 0. So now that this has been done, let's start with the stone script. So let's just create a new mono behavior script and call this the stone interaction. Here you go, and open it up in Visual. So now what we've got to do is let's just remove these two starting methods. We don't need these. And in order to actually interact and use this iInteractable script, all we've got to do is just next to mono behavior, we just add a comma and then we just write iInteractable. And now once you actually do this, it should outline in red. And this is because we need to actually implement the method that we've written here. So for instance, this is public void interact. So our script needs to actually implement this method. Alright, so if we do implement interface, as you can see, we get the interact method here, and now this does not actually show in red. So for now, let's just debug that log that we've interacted with a stone. Interacted with stone. Alright, so this will allow us to just test whether or not it works. Alright, so once this is confirmed to work, you are going to do the same for the wood and the bush. So let's select the stone game object so we can apply it directly to the prefab. So this is the stone, select and double click to open it in preview mode, and right here we can add the stone interaction. Also, let's also add a collider, box collider, and let's just resize it to make sure that this is good. Yeah, it is good. Great. Save that, and then let's just head back. Now all of our stone should have the interaction script. Good. So now the way that we are going to have our character interact with it, we actually can do it in various ways. One very easy way is to just detect when the character is near the object. Alright, so when its collider is colliding with this one, and then we can just call interact. So that's what we are going to do today for the sake of simplicity, that is. Alright, so in other script, let's just add another script called this player interaction. Alright, and open this up in Visual Studio. So once here, what we can do is we can just do public void on trigger enter, and right here we can just debug.log. Call this triggered. Alright, let's head back to Unity and let's just test it to see how it works. So before actually, what we are going to do is we are just going to select the puppet kid and we are just going to add a cube. Right, so this will be our trigger point. And then what we can do is we can just place this here. Alright, so let's just resize it so that it does not actually collide with the player character itself. Alright, so this should be good. Let me just make it a little bit long, so this way we can have smaller objects as well. Let's just test it. As you can see, it collides, and even with this big rock it still collides. Great. So now what we are going to do is we are going to remove the mesh renderer and mesh filter, and here we are just going to enable the ease trigger, also add a rigid body, and we can have it as kinematic, and disable the use gravity, and then we need to add the player interaction script as well, so we can add this here. So now let's hit play and let's test it out. So now we've got the game, and here is the console. So if I click somewhere, it should still move. Now if I click near the rock, as you can see, it says triggered. Great, so now this works. Now what we can do is head back to the player interaction script, and then we can just do a very simple if statement. So here first we need interactable. Let's call this interactable. Alright, and let's just not assign any values to it. You'll see why. Here what we can do is we can check whether or not the collider has this component as a component basically. So the way to do this is to use try get component, and then here we can just do out and then send it to interactable. So this actually will return a boolean. So if the component does have this component inside of it, if the game object has it, then it's going to be true. But if it failed to find this component, then it's going to return false. So what we are going to do is I'm just going to have it here and add a not sign in front. Hopefully now you can see it. So add a not sign in front. So what this essentially does is it tells us, alright, so we try and get the interactable script from the collided game object, and if we can, we'll just continue here. We got the interactable Alright, so we just continue with our script, but if we did not get one, we can safely just return here itself. Alright, and then just for knowledge, we can just debug.log, and let's just say we did not get anything. We did not get any scripts. Alright, and here what we can do is just call interactable.interact. Here you go, that's all we really need. So now you might ask something. Alright, so we've called interactable, but where does stone interaction comes from, right? So that's the thing about interfaces, is because you've extended stone interaction with iInteractable. If I query the iInteractable on any game object, then it will find all the scripts that's either the iInteractable itself or that extends from it. So in our case, what it's going to do is once it touches the stone, it's going to query the stone object and find the stone interaction. Later on, we are going to apply this to the bush. It's going to do the same thing. It queries the bush and then it just finds the bush interaction script that we'll have. So now we can go back inside of Unity and hit play, and now you should see that it calls interact once it does touch the stone. If we click the stone, as you can see, it says interacted with stone. If we go to the bush, then nothing happens because we did not implement it. And if we go back to the stone, it's going to call interacted with stone again. Great. So now let's just do a very basic script that is going to count the stats that we have. So let's just call this game manager. So here what we need a serialized field, tmp_text. Let's call this stone display, and we need another one for the wood display, tmp_text. Call this the wood display, and then we need a slider. Alright, so this is under Unity Engine.ui. A slider, let's call this the hunger slider. Here you go. And now on top here, we need to make a public static game manager instance. This is called a singleton pattern. What essentially it does is it allows us to just reference this instance of game manager, and then globally rather, and then other script can just query this variable instead of us having to manually just reference it inside of the editor. Alright, so this is very simple. And then here we can have another static field, so public static void, let's call it add resources, right? And now let's just do an enum, call this resource type, public, oh not public, sorry, let's call this stone, let's call this wood, and let's call this fruit or something. Alright, and then we can just use resource type here, call this resource type, and then float value. Alright, and now what we can do is very simply have multiple voids, so public void add wood. Alright, here we can just have a value, and then let's not forget that we also need to keep track of our wood count. Wood count equals to 0, and float stone count equals to 0, like this. Then what we can do is say wood count plus equals to value, and then let's just make sure that it does not actually go below 0. We can just do maximum wood count and 0, Okay, so this essentially allows it to stay above 0 every time. So this is very useful if we are going to send a negative value. So let's say we want to deduct wood, then we can just use this to ensure that it does not fall below 0. But obviously you'll have your checks before actually coming here, depending on what your use case would be. And then right here we can just do wood display dot text equals to value, or wood count rather. And as a good measure, I like to just do this like so. And now let's copy this, and this one is for add stone. Alright, so now it's the same thing, but this time we have stone instead of wood, like this. And then public void add food float value, and this one is actually quite different. So the first thing, let's have a public vector2, call this hunger range, right? And then on void awake, what we want to do is hunger slider dot min equals to 0, hunger slider dot max equals to hunger range dot y. Alright, dot x, sorry, like this. And now what we can do is we can have the hunger range equals to, no, not hunger range, sorry, hunger slider dot value equals to math dot maximum, or math dot length rather. We pass in the hunger slider dot value, we add value, and then for the minimum, again it has to be hunger range dot x, for the maximum hunger range dot y. Alright, so that's all we've got to do for the hunger range, hunger bar. And as for the hunger value, hunger slider dot value, we can add 0 like this, or not 0 but hunger range dot x, this way. Great. So now here what we do is we do a switch case, then we pass in resource type, and then if we have a stone, then we just do add stone. We need to access instance first, then we can do add stone, pass in value. If we've got wood, we have to add wood, and if we've got fruit, then we can just add food, right? Let me just rename this to food instead of fruit, like this. Great. And now let's go back to stone, and instead of interacted with stone, what we can have is we can call game manager dot add resource, and this is the resource type dot stone because this is stone. And then as for value, we can have a public vector2, sorry, let's call this stone value range, and here we can have a public float stone value. We can use this here, like this. And on void awake, we can just do stone value equals to random dot range between stone value range dot x and stone value range dot y. So this allows us to give a random value to each stone at spawn. And now if we go back to Unity, let's just quickly add the game manager. So create empty game manager. Okay, just drag and drop this here, and then let me just assign the different text like that. So now I've referenced all the UI objects. Let's rename this to food slider. Here you go. So now we can hit play. And if I go to a stone, as you can see, it called interacted with stone. Okay. Alright, that's weird. Add stones, don't count. Oh yeah, we forgot something. Let's go back to the stone prefab and open it up. Here we have to actually set the random range. So let's have it set anything between 1 to say 25. Alright, so now it should work. And another thing that we forgot as well is to set the hunger range. So it's from 1 to 100. Now we can actually play. We did not forget anything. So if we go to a stone, as you can see, it gives you 7.39. If we go to this one, it adds another value to it. That works. Now what you can do as well is, instead of having this as a float, you can just have it as a vector to int. Alright, so then essentially what it's going to help you with, it basically says, alright, we will not have any decimal values, we only want whole numbers. Alright, so now it's going to be either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up to 25, and there won't be any decimal values. So we've got 2 stones. I'm just going to replicate whatever I've done to this one as well. Great. So for this one I have it as 1 to 5, and for this one I can have it as 10 to 25 because it's bigger. Right? And another thing that you might want to do is to have it destroy the game object. So we can just do destroy game object here. So this way, once it finishes to collect the stone, it just destroys it. So let's hit play. And let's go to this one. As you can see, it destroys the stone. Goes to this one, it destroys this one. And same thing, it destroys it. And it also collects the resources. We can even go to the smaller ones if we've added, no, I think we did not add it. Or it's too small maybe. But this one should, as you can see, it collects it. So that's about it. Now let's just replicate the same thing for the wood and the bush. So I'm just going to repeat the same step and I'll be back with you once I've done. So one quick thing, I was actually making the wood interaction script, and for this one it's going to be a little bit different because we also have the chopped and unchopped variant. So what I'm gonna do is, once you actually collect one of this, it transforms and then it just becomes a chopped wood. And the way to do this is actually very simple. We are just going to have a public game object, call this the full tree, and then another game object, call this the chopped tree. Alright, so this is one way of doing it. Then what you could technically do is just do full tree dot set active false and then chop tree dot set active true. So that's one way of doing things. It will work. Another way of doing it would be to just have one. So this is the chop tree. Then what you're gonna do is say game object chopped tree equals to instantiate. Alright, so we spawn the chop tree. We spawn it at transform.position and at transform.rotation. And then Oh yeah, let's have it spawn chop tree, and here we can just destroy our game object here. All right, and then this just is a way cleaner way of doing things like this. And then what this essentially does is it just spawns the chop tree, but it places it on top of our current tree, so at the same position and rotation, and then we just destroy the current object. That's all. Alright, so I'll be right back with you in the Unity editor. So now let's just do the tree real quick, and I'll show you how to set up it. So let's just open the tree up, and then let's repeat the same steps. So basically add the wood interaction script and add the collider, box collider to it. Alright, so then just resize everything as needed. Alright, so it should be the same as previously. Alright, so this step remains unchanged. Again, add your wood range again, and now what we do is we just take chop tree and then just place it here and reference it. That's it. So now if we hit play, you should see that if we go to a stone, it should destroy the stone and give us the value. Oh, we actually clicked a tree, sorry, but as you can see, the tree increased, and then it also replaced the tree with a chopped variant, as you can see. And if we go to a stone this time around, destroy the stone and give us the stone. And if we go to a bush, it should just replenish our hunger, because this actually does not destroy the bush. So yeah, so now as you can see, everything works. Great. So in the next episode, we are actually going to see how we can further make this better. Alright, so right now, as you can see, it's not as polished looking, and then you can definitely see that the player is actually still walking when it's actually collecting the resources. So in the next episode, we will look at how we can fix this. But yeah, so if you guys found this video helpful, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you have not already, and if you've got any queries, questions or suggestions, do leave them in the comment section down below. And on this note, I'll see you guys next one. Bye!